Now, President Trump ran on lowering prescription prices back in 2016. Now, that was a position that I wholeheartedly agreed with. In fact, that is something that both Bernie Sanders and President, or back then candidate Trump, ran on. The greed of the pharmaceutical companies. They're ripping us off. That is one thing that all of us Americans can get behind. We know that we are getting ripped off by these big corporations. Now, he even promised Bernie Sanders, or that he even followed Bernie Sanders in promising to allow Medicare to negotiate with drug manufacturers and also allow people to import cheaper prescription drugs from other countries. Now, those two things combined would have drastically lowered the price for pharmaceutical drugs, right? Now, did the Trump administration follow through on those promises? Well, unfortunately, the answer is no. On Wednesday, Reuters reported that more than 250 different prescription drugs would see a price increase just this year. Now, let me go through some of those. Allergan PLC, for example, is raising the prices of over 50 different prescription drugs, with half of those prices going up by nearly 10%. That's just the first wave of price increases that will happen this year. I can guarantee that there will likely be more. AbbVie Inc., which makes the rheumatoid arthritis medication Humira, increased the price of their drug by more than 6%. That's just two examples, and we have plenty more. Already, there is a lot of drug increases that are happening this year alone. So, no decreases, just increases. So, now, why is that? Well, it's because the Trump administration didn't actually do any of the thing that it said it was going to do, even though they could have easily worked with Democrats, progressive Democrats, who ran on, again, empowering Medicare to be able to negotiate drug prices. Look, there are a lot of progressive Democrats now in the House. Over 40 of them won their seats. So a lot of those progressive Democrats would be in favor of this, even if it helps Donald Trump. Now, why would they not support that? Well, it's because they don't actually believe that they should do that, because it would end up hurting pharmaceutical company profits. Now, the reforms that he did end up doing were incredibly pro-free market. Now, they were outlined in a New York Times article from May, and it consisted of giving private entities more tools to negotiate better deals on behalf of consumers, insurers, and employers. Oh, no, we're going to give you more tools. The private entities, here's more tools so you can lower the prices. Wait, how effective is that? Well, Ronnie Gale, a securities analyst at Sanford C. Bernstein and Company, said of the president's proposed fixes in the Rose Garden speech, which is when he actually announced these reforms to the system, he said, quote, "We have not seen anything which should concern investors in the pharmaceutical industry." Oh. Well, wait a minute. What happened to being a maverick and taking on the system, right? What happened to taking on the establishment and the corporations that were ripping us off? Now, it turns out he's in favor of those corporations because those corporations end up giving him and his cronies money. Now, did you know that in total, there were 96 new increases for every decrease in prescription drug prices, and 4,412 hikes in the price of prescription drugs versus just 46 cuts. And there was actually a 16-to-1 ratio of increases to decreases in drug prices in the 2 months that followed Trump's promise to cut prescription drug prices. So, turns out if you let these companies continue to raise prices without any sort of effective policy controls, well, then they're going to keep raising the prices. Shocker. Look, again, right now, Alex Azar is running the Department of Health and Human Services. Now, Azar is a former drug lobbyist. Now, do you think that that guy is going to make prescription drug prices cheaper? No, course not. Of course he's not going to. No, what he's going to do, I know this may come to a shock for some people, right? But it turns out if you get into a position where you regulate your old boss, you're going to make things more favorable for your old company so that when you get out of office, you can go back to that old company and reap the rewards. So, again, I don't know if you know this, so you're probably shocked, but that is corruption. And a lot of these politicians, thanks to the revolving door, continue to do this. That is corruption that the Trump administration promised to put an end to, but has not, and actually refuses to do. Now, another part of this is that, again, President Trump didn't understand the actual issues going on here. He doesn't understand why drug prices are so expensive. Now, it turns out that drug companies have quite a few tactics. Now, why is that important to point out these tactics? So that we can come up with smart policy in order to stop them from using these tactics to keep drug prices expensive. Now, one of the problems is pay for delay. Now, what happens is that drug companies will sue generic drug makers to prevent them from selling cheaper versions. Now, they will then settle those cases by paying the generics to delay introducing cheaper versions. So basically, what happened? There's supposed to be free market here, right? And Republicans always talk about free market. We're going to have free market solutions. We're going to let competition happen. Well, it turns out that these large drug makers effectively kill their own competition by doing this pay for delay stuff. Oh, you come out with a cheaper drug, I'll sue you, and then we'll settle, and we'll just pay you to delay your cheaper generic so that we continue to reap the benefits of charging full price for this drug. Okay, then. Sure. Now, everywhere else, that is illegal. But in America, it's perfectly fine. And the administration, of course, has not actually done anything about this. Now, of course, to be fair, it's not just the Trump administration. This has been a problem under the Obama administration. This has been a problem for years under many different administrations, both Republicans and Democrats, because it turns out that all these administrations end up being lobbied by these same companies. So here you have the pharmaceutical industry that pays, that actually lobbies Congress more than anybody. Now, again, that is hugely problematic, and that is why we're in the situation that we're in. If we continue to have lobbying, and if we continue to have money in politics, then we are not actually going to solve this issue. Now, again, the Trump administration said something about getting money out of politics, but it was fairly clear that he wasn't serious about it. And neither was, of course, anyone else that was running save for Bernie Sanders. So, anyway. Now, there's another tactic here. And by the way, pay for delay costs Americans an estimated $3.5 billion per year. Just pointing that out. That's money that comes out of your pocket that you end up paying extra in prescription drugs. Now, there's another tactic here. Even after patents have expired, some U.S. drug companies will also continue to aggressively advertise their brands so patients will ask doctors for them instead of generic versions. And most doctors end up complying. Now, look, most people who need medication don't have time to shop around, and they see these advertisements for, let's use Humira as an example. Oh, well, we'll just get that. And maybe that's a poor example because that's sort of a rare drug from what I understand, but it's, I guess, at least kind of shows you that brand name is really important, right? And so what we have here is these companies that use their large advertising budgets to make sure that people know only the name of their drug and the fact that there is no actual, well, there is, but they don't want people to know that there's actually a generic version that will end up being cheaper. So there's that. Now, other nations, by the way, don't actually allow direct advertising of prescription drugs to happen. So they can't actually advertise. But in America, well, we do. We allow that. Now, the president has not addressed that because likely, again, he does not know that this is an actual problem. So, unfortunately, there was a lot of talk during the campaign and during his administration to lower prescription drug prices. Unfortunately, it has not happened. And so I don't believe that he was ever going to do this. I think it was a throwaway line. But hey, look, I'm willing to be surprised. I hope maybe he does do some actual reforms, but I very, very much doubt it. I think you guys have been, MAGA guys, I think you guys have been used. And maybe it's time you admit that he does not care about you, that he used your anger against the system and against these corporations in order to enrich himself and said corporations. Because I believe, from what I've seen, that's the kind of person Donald Trump is. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.